Ana Kasparian and even Lindy Lee were talking about the merits of the effects of whether or not Israel may have had a hand in Charlie Kirk's assassination. Now, one of the things that was discussed was whether or not the wheels were greased. Did Milikowski, that's his real name, Netanyahu's government, or Netanyahu directly, offer a large sum of money to Charlie Kirk? It would appear that they did. Now, Jillian Michaels decided to cause quite a stir by leaving the studio and doing a grand exit because she doesn't want to talk about this because you don't have any facts. Keep in mind, there's plenty of facts going around, plenty of smoke regarding whether or not there was an attempted payoff to keep Charlie Kirk and Turning Point USA to continue churning out the content that they feel is necessary to push for Israel right now. And there is a big topic of discussion that is going to be discussed with Jen on Monday regarding another meeting that Netanyahu decided to have with a lot of these content creators. Now, I'm not one to believe that there is a grand conspiracy here. Anytime somebody says, I don't want to talk about Israel, I don't want to talk about Israel's involvement, so I could care less about the spat between Ana Kasparian, Lindy Lee, and Jillian Michaels. But I'll tell you what I do care about. I care about the fact that Jillian Michaels decided that she was going to go on another content creator's channel and complain about this. And who do you think she went on with? You think she went on with somebody who was above board, that's actually doing great content, that they just wanted to have that honest conversation? Friend of the show, James Lee, did manage to get her on earlier today. But in lieu of the setup coming into this evening, who was the first content creator that Jillian Michaels went to discuss why she was so upset about the inclination that Israel had something to do with Charlie Kirk's demise? Who did she go to? Brandon effing Tatum, who's been attached at the hip with Netanyahu for the past few weeks. Here we go.
Thoughts on the conspiracies around Charlie's death? Because I've seen a lot out there. Did the shooter do it? You know, it's a lot of misinformation because people think, what I was told is, and I didn't see the press conference, but what people were saying is that the FBI came back and corrected the record and saying they don't believe he broke down the gun and rebuilt it back together. They came and clarified and said he never did that. And so what is your thoughts on some of these conspiracy theories that bother you the most?
Why are these conspiracies? We already know, at least from the information that has been available through sources that have nothing to do with the FBI, that have everything to do with people who were probably at the event, and those that are familiar with how guns and perhaps high-powered rifles operate when things happen. And all we're hearing from those that are truly in the know is that the government and the FBI are lying to us. They want to sweep everything under the rug, nice and neat, make us believe that the patsy was the one who did the deed, that he was either a groyper or a trans lover, whichever one fits your political ideology, and don't ask questions and move on. Oh, and by the way, don't get out of line, or you could be next. This is where Jillian Michaels goes. She wanted to do that whole song and dance on her channel. Oh, she's so offended. So she runs to Brandon Tatum, who everyone knows is now getting funded as one of the Conservative Inc. Israel lobby funded content creators. Well, that didn't take long. As if there was any type of plausible deniability. Boy, she threw that out the window. But let's hear what they have to say.
To be honest, Brandon, I don't really deal in conspiracy theories unless I think they're not a conspiracy theory. I generally wait and sit back and see where these things go. And when there's credible evidence, now you've got my attention and I want to understand it. What are we covering up? What are we hiding? Epstein, release the files, right? You give me something that has a foundation. you'll catch me there. It starts as a conspiracy. When you've got some real facts behind it, now you've got my interest.
Well, if we have your interests, then one would be asking themselves exactly why is it that the Epstein files are not being released? And it would appear that just about anybody who does not want the Epstein files released has some type of a marginal, if not outright direct attachment to the state of Israel. Now, you could say that's a conspiracy, but I would tell you that one nation under blackmail, as Whitney Webb so eloquently puts it, has everything to do with why we are not allowed to ask these questions. Whether you want to ask them or not, Jillian Michaels, that's up to you. You're given your talking points. You're told what lane you can approach, what lane you have to avoid. It couldn't be more obvious. Anybody can talk about the Epstein files right now because they know nothing's coming of it. Swept under the rug. Now, I would imagine that it will continue to be discussed. And hopefully, it will see the light of day. But heads will roll, literally and figuratively, if they ever do.
To be honest with you, this could make perfect sense on its face. You got a kid that is clearly Antifa.
Clearly Antifa. Clearly. Who gave you that talking point? Who wants to believe that this lady thought it all up on her own, that this patsy is the person responsible here? I think we can all safely say that whatever we're being fed regarding this kid is not on the surface. Nothing is above board right now. And we're going to get to the depths of that a little later in the program with Candace Owens, who had a very important message to release. She didn't even go live. She had to do it directly off of her phone. And this was late last night regarding this kid. But when somebody like Jillian Michaels, who is now being paid by Patrick Bett, Star of David, to do a podcast, you know that they're getting their talking points. And if that's not enough, now she's going on with Officer Talmud, as Carlos has put in the chat. Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it? In fact, it kind of looks like maybe there's some type of a setup going on here. You be the judge.
Who his parents say was radicalized by the left. He has a trans lover who had a deeply disturbed background that's also a furry.
You know, I'm always impressed with how incoherent so many people can be. Maybe this guy is a trans lover and is into furry stuff. But I'm still trying to figure out where the proof is that he's the person who did the job. This is all one big distraction from why he was killed and who actually did it. Again, not disputing that it's possible that the random person that they picked who was working or was in a class specifically tailored from the CIA that this kid was in, these setups become more and more glaring every day. So make no mistake, even if this is all true, even if he was a groyper, even if he was a trans lover, who gives a fuck? You know what matters? You want to know what actually matters? Why was he killed and who actually did it? Because if you look at the actual evidence that is available, and there isn't much, it would appear on the surface that whatever they're selling is not true. And that is the story. It has nothing to do with whether or not this guy is a furry lover or a groyper. Who cares? You can spin your wheels and talk about it from now until the cows come home. It does not change the fact that all evidence is pointing towards a patsy. He had nothing to do with this. But he sure makes for a great story. If you're trying to divide and conquer and get a whole bunch of clicks, that'll work.
I mean, it does, like I've just said, like kind of adds up. The kid turned himself in. Not like we grabbed the wrong guy. He turned himself in. I killed Charlie Kirk. Okay. So until you give me something else, and I appreciate, like, it doesn't sound like they would say the word vehicle. It doesn't sound like he would say my love. I'm like, well, he's insane. So I mean, just give me, I believe the FBI should get to the bottom of it.
The FBI is not getting to the bottom of anything. And if you knew anything about anything, and apparently you know nothing or less than nothing, you would know that the FBI has no intentions of solving this case. You would know that if you knew anything, and you know nothing. So I wouldn't expect anything from somebody who knows nothing. On top of that, when she says, give me something, and then we'll talk about it, what she's really saying is, give me my next talking point, and I'll be more than happy to share it. Because if it goes in line with everything that I am being told I must say and do in order to be paid, I will do it. Again, I didn't give a fuck about this blow up that she had on her set until she decided to go and rant about it to the guy who couldn't be on his knees in conservative ink harder right now for Netanyahu than Officer Talmud Tatum. I mean, come on now. You make yourself look very guilty. Very guilty. And I want to know who actually believes any of this shit. Someone has suggested, and I believe it's true. When you hear out of sight, out of mind, obscene commentary from a lot of these people, you ask yourself, if it makes no sense on the surface and no one's going to buy it, why do they say it? It isn't about whether they get people to believe it or not. It's whether their handlers and their funders are satisfied with what they're saying. If they're satisfied, that's enough. Because in the minds of the powers that be, the American people are not going to revolt. So we will keep doing what we're doing. That's what they're counting on. And that is why, as a safety net, they're setting up police states all over the country. That's what's happening. And what these turncoats are doing are making sure that they're on the right side of the police state when shit hits the fan, and maybe make a few bucks while you're at it. But again, if you can live with yourself, that's on you. I know I couldn't.
There are a lot of powerful conservative influencers that you could take out for nefarious and covert reasons. If Israel wanted to take somebody out, I would think it would be Candace, Tucker. Like,
of all the names that you're going to throw out there that they would take out, you're going to put up the two people that have the most influence on America First individuals who want nothing to do with the state of Israel? No, Charlie Kirk's name was mentioned specifically because he is the person who actually had the most influence over the Christian Zionist right in the United States. And his public execution could not have been more obvious when it came to making sure that everybody got in line. This is why they're having this big summit right now amongst conservative commentators to figure out what else they need to say. We're going to get to Nick Fuentes a little later, but he's not the only one. He just happens to have the greatest deal of influence. But do not misconstrue. There are people that are at levels that we will not understand, that we do not have insights to, that get inside information, that are told what they can and they cannot say, and then they are warned about what they can and cannot say. it is pretty clear several content creators that were otherwise very critical of the state of Israel are now changing their tune in a big way over the last few weeks, if you haven't noticed. You know who hasn't changed their tune? Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson.
Which is disgusting. I'm going to be very clear. If there were evil intentions, right? I think you would go to the people that are the most vocal and the most influential, not the guy that's advocated on your behalf on college campuses for I don't know how many years. It just doesn't, it's nonsensical to me.
So effectively, what she is saying is that it doesn't actually matter that there is ample evidence from so many different corners of conservative Inc. that Charlie Kirk had changed his tune about Israel in a substantial way. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's pretend everything was copacetic. Let's pretend he didn't refuse that trip to Israel. Let's pretend he didn't refuse that money. Let's pretend that Zionist billionaire Mr. Shillman didn't stop funding TPUSA, and he was one of their biggest donors. Let's pretend that didn't happen. This is why people like this deserve no credit, no respect, and no money.